I recall the days of myself as a child, running across the living room of my home and the everyday chores my parents would be doing. I'm sure many of you can relate and remember seeing the home of which you grew up in, knowing exactly where each piece of furniture stands, every corner of your room like it was your hand, and of course, singing into the fan to auto-tune our voices. Although we've grown into adults, leaving these experiences to be memories, the good news is that we can always return home and relive bits and pieces of our childhood. But what if you can't? What if one day you're told that your house, your home, has been flooded, everything destroyed, house short-circuited, furniture underwater, fishes everywhere? Because that is the reality that some of us have had to face. The occurrence of floods in Malaysia is no new matter, as it is an issue that the citizens have had to deal with on a yearly basis. As such, it has risen to place itself as the most devastating natural disaster in our country. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a natural disaster is explained as an event that occurs naturally, to the extent that it causes significant damage or loss of life. Key word in this definition being that it occurs naturally. Now we know of the causes of floods, such as heavy rains, strong waves from the shore, storm surges, and so on. These causes are out of our hands, and we have no control over when or how it happens. But I'm not here to speak on that. Rather, I'm here to talk on matters that are in our control, to speak on how our actions, the actions of mankind, have led to the unnatural occurrence of floods. I am here to share why floods is more than a natural disaster. Starting with the poor maintenance of dams. When a dam is built, there's no argument that it provides an abundance of benefit, mainly being that it generates hydroelectricity for human consumption. A typical dam works in that it would trap water as it flows through the river and then further allow the water to flow through a pathway that would spin a turbine that is connected to a generator, thus producing electricity. Now, over time, components, structures and parts of that dam would undergo erosion and or weaken from having to handle strong flows of water to standing still against the enormous pressure lying within the trapped body of water. As such, these components, structures and parts would need maintenance. And not just any maintenance, but that from qualified engineers and the likes. Hiring the team would obviously incur expenses, and as we are all aware, the general principle when it comes to hiring someone for their expertise, which is that the more complex the job, the higher the bill at the end. When faced with such expenditure, would the dam be then maintained with the highest professionalism? Or would it be done with merely the passable standard to which it checks all the minimum requirements? But if only Mother Nature had provided us with her own wall of defenses to protect us against these dangerous waters. Oh wait, she did. Mother Nature gave us acres upon acres of forests, but we humans have decided that these trees are simply taking up space that we can otherwise use to build and establish our version of a beautiful landscape. Which brings me to my next point. Deforestation. When we look at a tree, not a forest, but just a tree, there is more to it than what our eyes can see. We perceive a mighty bark, tall with a distinct brown color, leaves that rustle with the wind, and maybe a sweet apple hanging from a branch. However, what we do not see is that each leaf takes in sunlight and makes its own food while taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, as the roots, having grown deep underground, absorb water and nutrients from the soil while also holding it together. So when a person chops down a tree, the entire operation ceases. The tree is no longer alive, its roots no longer able to hold the soil in place. Thus, when it rains, the water will carry forward the soil into the river, lake or pond, which thereby increases the ground sediment therefore increasing the volume of water. When the volume of water increases ever so slightly, but more and more each day, a flood is bound to occur. Understanding that the increasing volume of water inevitably leads to a flood is crucial, as I'd like to explain how global warming is also a reason as to why floods aren't entirely natural anymore. NASA explains that the Earth has a natural greenhouse effect. This natural effect works to the benefit of the planet in that it helps maintain the temperature at a comfortable 15 degrees Celsius. Without this natural effect, the planet's temperature would plummet to chilly -18 degrees Celsius. The issue with that is that for the past 25 decades, human activity has been steadily increasing Earth's temperature as a result of the constant burning of fossil fuels, among a plethora of other things. Global warming also happens because there is an increase of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere. CO2 is dangerous because it is the primary greenhouse gas which keeps heat from being reflected back into space. Our trees could have helped by absorbing in the carbon dioxide if it weren't plagued by deforestation. So, when our planet becomes hotter, our ice caps begin melting. Now, NASA had carried out a mission to collect data as to the mass of the ice sheets in Antarctica and Greenland. They found that between the years 2002 to 2017, Antarctica lost 151 billion metric tons of ice mass per year, whereas Greenland stands at 273 billion metric tons per year. These ice sheets store roughly 2/3 of all the freshwater on Earth, the melting of which is responsible for having brought up 1/3 of the global average rise in sea level since the year 1993. This global increase in the volume of water takes up more space, which also results in stronger and taller waves that will bring about more floods. It is not right for us to say that there is nothing that can be done for us to reduce floods from happening, because it is a natural disaster. When a handful of those reasons for why a flood happens is due to what we have done. Floods are only a natural consequence to the actions and decisions made by mankind. The disaster in our cities and states is merely a reflection of the damage we've done onto our planet. And that is why I believe floods are more than a natural disaster. I'm Fardeen Peersha, and thank you very much for listening.